Imagine getting a notice in the mail saying that very soon, 15% of your paycheck is just going to disappear. For millions of student loan borrowers, that wasn't a hypothetical. That was reality. But then, right at the last second, the Department of Education just slammed on the brakes. So let's break down what just happened and, more importantly, why it's such a big deal.
All right, so first let's set the stage here. For a huge number of people in default on their federal student loans, a really serious financial cliff was right around the corner. We're talking about having their wages garnished directly by the government. So what is wage garnishment anyway? Well, you can think of it as the government's super powerful tool for collecting on defaulted student loans. It's officially called administrative wage garnishment, and what it means is they can take money right out of your paycheck without ever having to go to court. And we're not talking about a small slice of your pay either. The government can legally seize up to 15% of your after-tax wages. And, it doesn't even stop at your paycheck. They can also go after your tax refunds and other federal benefits. It is a very, very powerful collection method. And listen, this wasn't some far-off threat. The process was already rolling. Earlier this month, notices started hitting mailboxes, giving borrowers a pretty stark 30-day warning. For so many people, the clock was ticking down to a major financial hit. And then, with that 30-day deadline getting closer and closer, everything changed. The government did a complete 180. So what on earth prompted this sudden halt? Okay, so the original plan? It was crystal clear, and it was already in motion. The Department of Education was moving full steam ahead to start collecting on those defaulted loans by garnishing wages. But then, on Friday, the department announced a total reversal. They decided to immediately delay the whole plan. So the bottom line is, for now, these collections are on hold. But why the sudden change of heart? Well, the official reason for this delay isn't just a simple timeout. It's actually tied to something much bigger. Major reforms that are happening inside the student loan system itself. And the root of this pause comes from a law with, well, a pretty memorable name, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBBA for short. This law was passed last year, and it basically handed the Department of Education a massive job to completely overhaul the tangled, confusing mess of federal student loan repayment programs. And here's the official line on it from Undersecretary of Education Nicholas Kent. He said that these collection efforts will work more efficiently and fairly after the big improvements to the system are in place. The logic here is pretty simple, right? Fix the broken system before you start using its harshest collection tools. So what are these significant improvements we keep talking about? Well, this pause is designed to give the government the breathing room it needs to roll out two huge reforms that were mandated by that new law. The first major change is all about making things simple. Right now, the system is this confusing maze of different repayment plans. The whole point of the new system, which is set to launch on July 1st, 2026, is to get rid of all that complexity and replace it with just two easy-to-understand options, a standard plan and an income-driven plan. The hope is that this will actually let people figure out their best path forward. Now, the second reform is a really big deal. It's basically a second chance. Before this, if you defaulted on your student loan, you had exactly one shot to fix it through a process called rehabilitation. Just one. This new law changes that, giving borrowers another opportunity to get their loans back in good standing. This pause is meant to give people time to actually learn about and use this brand new lifeline. Okay, so we've covered the what and the why of this whole situation. Now let's get down to the most important part. What does all this news actually mean for borrowers? And what are your rights? So even with this pause, it is absolutely critical to know your rights for if and when these garnishment notices start up again. You have the right to request a hearing. And at that hearing, you can argue about the debt itself, you can dispute the amount they say you owe, or you can argue that the garnishment would cause you extreme financial hardship. You can also fight it if you've been recently unemployed. These are really powerful protections that every single borrower needs to know about. So if we boil this whole thing down to one key takeaway, here it is. The government has hit pause on involuntary collections to give borrowers in default a window of opportunity. It's a window of time to check out the new, simpler repayment plans and that new second chance option before the threat of having your wages garnished comes back. And that, of course, leaves us with the big million-dollar question. This whole policy shift is a bet that a clearer system and more opportunities for people can make a real difference. But will simplifying loan options and offering a second chance actually be enough to solve the massive student loan default crisis? Well, that's something we're all going to have to watch very, very closely.